Thank you everyone for joining the meeting. It's very exciting to see all the people and the interest in the program. I'm Kendra Nelson. I'm the program manager for the London First Year Experience in Off-Campus Study and Exchanges at Skidmore. I'll be kind of leading the session tonight and really kind of moderating the panel. We have a fantastic panel here to talk about their experience in London. So a lot of great information to share. One thing to note is we are recording this session. So the link will be made available after tonight to share it to anyone that maybe couldn't join us today. We're also taking questions in the Q&A at the bottom. Q&A function. So Gabby will explain that in a minute when we do our introductions. But like I said, it's great to see so many people here. I'm glad that we can kind of share this time and really talk about the London First Year Experience, maybe answer any questions that you have. I definitely wanted to congratulate all of you. You know, it's fantastic that you got this far in the process, and we hope that whether you come to London or you come to campus in the fall, that you choose to be part of the Skidmore community. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We have a nice presentation for you, so just give me a minute. All right, everyone, that looks good, right? Okay, great. All right, 1 second. All right, so just a quick agenda for today. I will start with the introductions of our panel, but we'll go through some of these basic information here. So if you have questions as we're going through, definitely access that Q&A function, but we'll definitely leave time at the end to ask more questions, answer the questions that have come through. So just a quick preview for tonight. And like I said, we have a fantastic panel here. So again, my name is Kendra. I work in Off-Campus Study and Exchanges, which is Skidmore's Study Abroad office. I'm also happy to have Gabby from Admissions. Gabby, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabby Viaume. I'm Assistant Director of Admissions at Skidmore College. I'm also an alum. I graduated in 2021, and I'm going to be monitoring the Q&A function. So again, if you have any questions throughout, just drop them in there and I'll be taking a look.
All right, and then I'd like to have each of the panelists to introduce themselves. Your class here at Skidmore, when you were in London, major or intended major, things like that. Anything else you'd like to describe yourself? Sadie, would you like to go first?
Yeah, of course. Hi, I'm Sadie. I'm a current sophomore. I was in London in 21, 2 years ago. I'm a political science major and an environmental studies and sciences minor, and I also work in the off-campus study and exchange office. If you have like further student questions along this process, I'll be like happy to answer questions via email.
Diva?
Hi, I'm Diva. I'm also a sophomore. I went with Sadie in 2021, and I'm from a small country in Southeast Asia called East Timor, so I'm also an international student. And I'm an international affairs and management and business double major. And the stuff I do on campus is I work at admissions. So if you have any questions about that, and then I also just do some other volunteering work as well.
Hey, Zach.
Hi, I'm Zach. I'm a freshman. I was just in London this past fall semester, and I am a math major and music minor.
And last but not least, Kala.
Hi, I'm Kala. I'm a freshman. I was in London last semester too. I am majoring in business and minoring in design.
Great. So like I said, we're going to hear a lot from our panel tonight. And so hopefully we can answer almost any question that you have across all of our varied experience. Hopefully you can kind of understand by now, this program really is a collaboration. So my office, Off-Campus Study and Exchanges, works very closely with admissions. We also work very closely with the First Year Experience office, but we pull in offices and departments, faculty from all over campus. So it really is a true Skidmore program. And you do have the support of campus even when you're studying in London. So before we get into kind of some of the details of the program, I just wanted to give a quick overview of the history of the London First Year Experience. It is a long-standing program at Skidmore. We've been offering this since 2001 in various versions. So this fall will be our 22nd year of the program. Had it every year except one semester because of COVID. And I'm very excited to announce or let you know that we have a new partnership in London. We're going to be working with CEA Kappa. So anybody that maybe had looked at the website even up until a few weeks ago, we had a different program partner in London that we were working with, but we just announced our partnership with CEA Kappa. Program structure wise, it is essentially the same type of program. We have a little bit of variation in the classes that we're going to offer. We've been able to post the housing information, which I'll go into that in more detail. But just to give you a little bit of an idea about how the program runs, like I said, it is a Skidmore program, but we partner with CEA Kappa to offer a customized program. So CEA Kappa is a company, they are a global company. They have study abroad programs, I think in 22 different locations around the world, including London. So they have their own program center, fully staffed building facilities in London. And then they partner with Skidmore to provide the program that we design for our students. So essentially Skidmore College has designed the program. CEA Kappa is there to support our program, and we use their facilities and their staff to support our students throughout the semester. Right. The other thing to keep in mind, like I said, this program really is a true partnership between the various offices on campus, but there'll also be people from Skidmore that will go with you to London. So we have 2 faculty members every year that go to London and serve as instructors for our Scribner seminars, but also advisors, mentors for the students. So they really do shape how the semester goes and some of the activities and the courses that will be offered. There is usually a Skidmore program assistant. Well, there's always a Skidmore program assistant, but usually it's a student that has just graduated in May. So that person has been through the full cycle at Skidmore. Sometimes they were a former London first year, not always, but that's a great connection for students to basically be able to access that person and get to answer any questions that they might have about coming back to Skidmore. But that program assistant also supports them throughout the semester doing programming, providing advice, a wide variety of tasks. And then our students also have access to the full CEA Kappa staff in London. So like I said, their program center is fully staffed. They have a huge staff there to support students. So there's a lot of people that can lend support to students throughout the semester. All right, so I always like to kind of start this off. My favorite question for the panel is, why did you choose to go to London? Now, I've been working on this program. I think this fall will be the 14th year I've managed this cycle of programs. I've been doing this a long time. So I've heard a lot of reasons, and every student that goes to London kind of has a different reason for choosing to do so. But I'd like to kind of talk with the panel and have them tell you why they chose to London and see if it maybe kind of resonates with some of the things that you're thinking about. Calla, would you like to start off and maybe share a little bit about why you chose to go to London?
Yeah, so I chose to go to London because I live in Saratoga Springs, New York, where Skidmore is, and I also went to boarding school for high school. So I felt as though the next step were to go to London and then to come back to campus. And I love to travel, so that was also a huge upside.
Great. Sadie?
Yeah, I have a little bit of a funny story, but when I was like originally filling out my Common App, I like saw it as an option. and like clicked it and forgot until I got into Skidmore. And then I was like, oh my God, I got into this London program. Do I actually want to do that? And then like went through the whole process of like learning about what the program was and deciding that I really did want it. So a little opposite, I think, of what most people do. But like when I finally decided that I did want to come to Skidmore and be a part of the London program, it just was a really amazing opportunity. Like, and not a lot of colleges have the opportunity to go abroad first semester. And like the way the program has been built, like you are really fully supported. And like when you're in the city, like using the city as such an educational opportunity was just a really amazing like thing that I didn't want to pass up on.
Zach?
So I kind of did the same thing. I saw it on the Common app and I kind of just clicked it for fun. I was like, probably won't get it. And then I got it and I looked into it more and I thought it was such a cool opportunity and I love traveling and I took a lot of advantage of that abroad. I went to 23 countries and I got to learn so much about the world and culture, which was really cool.
Great. Diva?
Yes, so for me, I actually didn't know about London program when I like submitted my application. I probably just like went over it and like didn't even notice because it's just like a tick box. But then I learned it from my friend who also got in. And so I looked at it more, and then I realized that it's really unique, and I'm really like, I really usually prefer and go for like untraditional programs and just like experiences. And I really like the first thing I read was like such a big city to be your classroom. But then like I learned more about it, and then I also talked to like some people that went and did the program, and like it was just like I also looked at the course list, and like they were all very interesting, and it was just like I just wanted to like get outside of my comfort zone and like just go for it.
Great. Yeah. So, I mean, like the panelist said, like everybody kind of chooses London for different reasons. Whether it's to, kind of do something unique and kind of push yourself outside those comfort zones, or if you're from Saratoga, doing something a little bit different from your first semester. There's a wide range of reasons you could choose. I would say like one of the things that I always like to highlight to students is the London first year experience is a great way to really meet and connect with other students and with Skidmore faculty. So I would say over the years, I've seen students form really close relationships with the other students on the program. And I really think that's one of the best parts about this program. So even though Skidmore is a small school, sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to kind of meet people and make your way that first year. But I would say the students in the London cohort, you get to know those other 35 students very, very well, and better than any student on campus knows any other 35 students on campus. So it does tend to be a very close, tight-knit cohort. And that usually continues, although in a different way when students come back to campus. Usually we see those bonds really continue throughout their 4 years at Skidmore. Gabby, is there anything else that you've heard that you might want to add?
Yeah, so we actually got a couple questions in the chat, if we want to take a quick look at those. So Zach, I know you said you've done quite a bit of traveling when you were abroad. So this question I think would pertain well to you. How much time off do the students have to travel?
Well, when we were there, we only had classes Monday through Thursday. So what I would do is from Friday to Saturday, I would hop on a plane, Ryanair, very cheap flights, and just bring a backpack. And I would go traveling every weekend while making sure that I would, like at the airport, I would be doing my homework on the flights. You can use Google Docs offline to write essays. So you do fairly have a lot of time to do traveling and still focus on your work. I mean, if there was midterms, I wouldn't go traveling that week, obviously, so I could study. But it's good to have a balance.
Anybody else on the panel want to say anything about the time that they had to travel? Diva? Oh, TV, you might be muted. Not sure. We might have another program running at the same time. Maybe that's an issue. Kala?
I was able to travel a lot like Zach too. I actually left Thursday night, and came back on Sunday later. And I went to Italy and a couple other places in Paris and Amsterdam. So I think it's very doable to travel. Zach traveled the most out of the group, because we were all kind of exploring London too. But it's a very easy to be able to travel, especially with the flights being so cheap.
I will say that the schedule of classes hasn't been set yet, so I don't know that you would still have classes only Monday to Thursday. I'll also say that last year, students still had some class commitments on Fridays as well, but it did depend on which class you were and which week it was. So one of the things that you'll get at the start of the semester is a program calendar, and you'll be able to see where you might have openings, and if you have required class field trips or excursions, you'll know that at the start of the semester. We do encourage students to wait to book any travel throughout the semester until you get that calendar, just because there will be things throughout the semester. There'll be some excursions, some field trips outside of London that'll be included in the program, and we want to make sure you'll be able to participate in all of those things. The other thing I like to mention is that there should also be a week-long break, and typically right in the middle of the semester. I'm pretty sure we're still going to be offering that this fall. So that's a great opportunity to travel. We also have some students that decide not to travel far and wide and really kind of focus their time in London. I mean, there's so much in the city that even if you don't travel a lot, you can do a lot in the city. It'll be hard to be bored at any point, and you'll never get to everything, even if you're there, even if you travel none at all, like you can't do everything that London has to offer. So a lot of great opportunities there. All right, so kind of moving along into academics. And Diva, do you want to try to see if your sound's working? No, still no. I don't know. All right, we'll come back to you. Okay, so kind of moving into academics, since we were talking about the class schedule, just to kind of give you an overview. Again, this information has been recently updated on the website as well, but students will be taking a total of 4 classes in London. So that will be 4 classes. Each course is worth 4 credits for a total of 16 credits. So that's considered a full course load at Skidmore. Everyone's required to take a Scrivener seminar, and I'll kind of go through those options in a minute. And then you'll choose 3 additional courses from the 7 or 8 courses that we offer. So this is one of those things. The program does have a limited curriculum. That is a difference between going to London and coming to campus. But all of the courses that we offer in London really are designed to make use of London as a classroom and get you out into the city exploring. With the exception of calculus, that one, there's not a lot of field trips that happen with that one. It's primarily in the classroom for that, but it's a great way to kind of get started. If you're thinking about majoring in any of the sciences, getting calculus under your belt is a great idea. There's more detail on the London FYE website, and we'll be posting more information about courses in the coming weeks. Hopefully next week we'll be able to put up some of the course descriptions. But right here, just to kind of get started, these are going to be the 2 Skidmore faculty that are going with the group this fall, and their Scrivener seminars. So the Scrivener seminar is something that every first-year student will take.
Kendra, I think your screen froze. All right, let's see. I'm going to look at a couple questions that I think I could probably answer in here in the meantime. Yep. Yeah, so can international students get into the London first year experience program? Yes, absolutely. So domestic students as well as international students can apply and get into and attend the London first year experience program. It is open for any student to apply to that is applying to Skidmore. Let's see. Socially, how was it returning to the main Skidmore campus a month later than the rest of your classmates? Kala, do you want to take that? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, it was a really easy transition. I was placed into a dorm, and with that, everyone was super open. I was a little scared at first, as some people did mention it being a little bit harder and you having to put yourself out there, but I'm super outgoing. So for me, that was in my favor. And everyone was so sweet, and I feel like I've been on campus for a really long time. So yeah.
Awesome. Great. Sadie, do you want to jump in there too?
Yeah, I definitely think like coming back from London, having like a core group of friends, we kind of like when someone made a friend who was on campus, like we all became their friends. So I feel like a lot of my on-campus friends like became my friends through mutual connections. And then also like joining clubs is a really vital way that like I found to make connections. And like I'm on the school's frisbee team, so like that is like a really big club on campus that like just made me feel really welcome and invited, and just like seeing people every day who you know like makes you feel like you fit in and you like have friends on campus already, even if they weren't there before.
That's great. Thank you. Okay. Kendra. Okay, amazing.
So sorry about that. Okay. This. All right, so hopefully I don't get kicked off my internet again. Again, I apologize about that. So going into the two seminars, the Scribner seminar in general, it's a, like I said, it's something that all first year students do. These are topics and courses designed by faculty using their own interests, but they're designed to be interdisciplinary. So even though Professor Rye is in the psychology department, his seminar is actually pulling themes from psychology, but also from, philosophy, religion, literature, fine arts, and really kind of looking at this idea of what it means to be, to live a good life, So thinking about the concept of happiness, of forgiveness, and really making use of some of the museums and performances that are happening in London. Professor Lindner, the science of global cities, he's really kind of looking at, it's more of an urban studies type course through a sociological lens, but really looking at the role of cities and kind of how they organize people, and kind of how cities like London and other global cities become like the hub for markets and politics and creative arts, and kind of really looking at those things through social science methods and observation. So great options here. Like I said, students in London will choose one of the two seminars there. And then in addition to that, students will take 3 courses from the other classes that we're offering in London. So this is a tentative list of courses. The courses haven't been finalized yet. We're hoping that the courses get finalized in the next 2 weeks or so, but this is what we're thinking is going to be offered. But it is kind of a mixture of humanities, social sciences, that calculus course, and even an environmental studies course about the global environment. So, hopefully there's enough in here for you to choose from. I would like to kind of turn it over to the panel and kind of get their experience on what classes they took, or any highlights, what was different about taking classes in London compared to campus. So Sadie, how about you go ahead and start?
Yeah, I think one of the classes that really stuck out for me in London was the theater course I took. Almost like every other week we went and saw a show or a play, and then like in class would discuss the play itself, but also like what type of theater and how it was instrumental and just like different aspects of theater. But that was a really special experience, like get to see so much live theater that is provided by the program. So we didn't have to like buy any of the tickets. We just had to get ourselves to the shows. And so using like the resources of that city to really take advantage of that was a really awesome opportunity.
And even if you end up not being in the theater course, usually there's at least one theater excursion that everybody on the program is able to go to, included in the program. Diva, talk a little bit about academics.
Sure. For me, I think the class that stuck out the most to me was the art history class, and the part that stuck out the most to me was the practice part, because so at the second part of the semester we had to go to the museum once a week to like sketch and then come back and present in class. And I've never sketched or drawn or had anything to do with art in my life before, like unless like in preschool probably. So I was really like nervous about it. I was really scared, but then it ended up being a really fun experience. I learned a lot from the class, and like now I also got like my own sketchbook, and like sometimes I still sketch like in my free time. But it was just like, and also like my friends, because like we were all in different levels, and my friends that were like better at drawing, like they weren't like making fun of me or anything. They were like encouraging me and they were helping me. So you can also expect like a very like supportive community.
And I will say that, all the classes in London, there's no required background except for calculus. Calculus, you do have to take a placement test and place into calculus 1 or higher. But all the other courses you're coming to, you don't have to have a background on them. So you can pick something that maybe you've never taken a class in before, but you're interested in the class. So, Kala, want to add anything?
For me, I did the art class and theater, like what they said too. My mindset going into the art class was if Jackson Pollock could do it, I could. Which was kind of an interesting take, as I have never really done studio art like that before. And it was really interesting for me. My biggest takeaway was going to so many museums I wouldn't have gone into. And that was something that was huge. With the theater program, again, going in once a week and watching a production that I probably wouldn't see without going with a class and fully understanding the significance to watching like Shakespeare in candlelight is something that was really cool to do in London.
And Zach?
So I did the math approach, and one thing I was like a little nervous about is because I placed like out of calculus, and I didn't know if I was going to be behind at all, but I'm glad that I took calculus 1 in London, because it also pushed the boundaries, because like if your class, a lot of people have no calculus in your class, then they will push it a little bit to teach some more subjects in the Calc 2, and that really helped me now while I'm currently taking Calc 2. That I know some of the material. It's more of like a whatever your class space level is, that's how they take the pace in it. So yeah.
So hopefully you can find some classes on here that sound interesting to you. The registration process is something that you'll do with me. We usually do very intentional set time for registration. So I will say that it's a different process from campus, and all the students, you'll still get all the emails about everything happening for students coming to campus. Some of that stuff is not going to apply to you, like registration. So if you ever get an email and you're concerned about it, you can always check in with me if you're committed to London and you're not sure if something applies to you or not. But we do like usually do kind of a set date and time where students will submit their preferences, and then we add students into the courses based on the order we receive those preferences after that date and time, after we open the registration. We also take into account if there's any extenuating circumstances or any particular academic need that you would need one course over another. So we try to be flexible when we can, but if you have any questions about registration, feel free to reach out to me. That probably won't be till sometime in June. But you can always check in with me about that whenever you're ready. All right, Gabby, any questions about course options in there?
Yeah, there is a question here about where are the classes being held in London?
Oh, great question. So the classes are actually going to be held at the program center. So this would be the CEA Kappa Center. It's located in Kensington, which is in central London, but it will be a commute from your student residence hall. So just like getting anywhere in the city, you'll use public transportation to get there. A little bit more about the CEA Kappa Center is it's right on a main road in Kensington, kind of very picturesque with kind of the white Georgian townhouses. But it's basically 3 or 4 buildings that then have been renovated into classroom space, offices for the full-time staff. There's also like student lounge area, computer area for students. So it really does become your home away from home, but that's where you'll be taking your classes. So this program, like I said, it's a customized program for Skidmore College. You're not actually taking classes at you're not taking classes at a British university, you're taking classes at the program center. You're taught by either the Skidmore faculty for the Scribner seminar or local British and international faculty hired by the program. And other students in your classes will be other Skidmore students that are on this program. So we do try to keep the classes small. Usually the enrollment for most classes is between 15 and 18 students. And like I said, you're just taking classes with other Skidmore students. All right, so the other big component of your experience that I just wanted to touch on is housing. Like I said, we just updated the website a few weeks ago with details about the new housing option for this fall. So students will be staying at the Stay Club Camden. The Stay Club is a private company that basically runs student residence halls. And so for this particular student residence hall, there'd be other study abroad students, other international students, and British students all living in the same building. Skidmore students will live just with other Skidmore students. So ideally, we'll have all of our students in a double. You'll be sharing with another Skidmore student. There is a chance that there might be 1 or 2 students that are in a single, just if there's an odd number of students, or something like that. But each of those double rooms would have obviously 2 beds and, separate spaces for dressers and desks and things like that. But there's a kitchenette, so you'll be able to cook for yourself if you want to. And there's also a private bathroom in your room that you're just going to share with your roommate. So it's kind of a nice space that way. We also are providing a partial meal plan. So this is something that will be catered through the residence hall. It is intended to be 2 meals a week during the week. So ideally, I think it's going to be breakfast and dinner. We're still working out the exact details. And then you'll receive a stipend for the meals that are not provided by the residence hall. Now, just keep in mind that stipend is going to be a reasonable amount of money. It's not going to be intended for you to eat out at every single meal. So some of those meals you would be expected to cook for yourself and bring with you, or on the weekends you might be cooking for yourself. The other thing to keep in mind, this location, fantastic location in Camden for anybody that's already been to London, very centrally located, just minutes from the famous Camden Market. So I think it's going to be a fantastic location. It's also really close to at least 2 different tube lines. So you'll be able to really get almost anywhere you need to go in London pretty easily. The program will provide provide a local transportation pass, so you'll be able to use public transportation. So that would be the tube or the subway, buses, or even overland trains, depending on where you're going to go within zones 1 and 2, which is central London. But yeah, fantastic location that way. Does anybody on the panel want to talk a little bit about just kind of living with a roommate and kind of, you know, coming to campus or coming to college for the first time? You know, some people might be like Calla, that you've lived in kind of with boarding school, so you've kind of had that experience before, but for others it might have been, you know, kind of your first time away from home, living with a roommate and doing it all in London. Anybody want to raise their hand if they want to chat? Calla?
For me, again, this wasn't my first time, as I was at boarding school, but when going to London, I think for me, I had to remember to some degree, people haven't had those 4 years living away from home. So it was still different in an adjustment, as people around me, for everyone, we were all in London, new together. So I think with that, it was a little bit different, but living with a roommate is, you have common interests. Even if you guys don't hang out all the time, it's honestly better, because then you're not having too much time with someone. But yeah, it was an easy transition for me.
Great. Anyone else want to comment on the roommate living in London? Sadie?
I can go. I also saw there were some questions about like how it works. So when I like was randomly paired with my roommate in London, and then we chose to room together on campus for the following spring semester. So like that was an experience that a lot of people in my program did. So other people, like when they came back for spring, went random. But most of us were like randomly paired in London, and so like formed friendships that way. And like you're both new at this, everyone in the program is like having this new experience together. And so I think that like makes it a little easier of like you're all figuring out at the same time, but also like there's an expectation of like supporting each other and leaning on each other. I remember like we had like one big pot and everyone else had little pots. So we had like the shared big pot for whoever like was making pasta. You would like go knock on their door and be like, can I borrow the pot? Like, I'll give you a little pasta later. So like having that shared community of like, you're all living really close together, which was very similar to how like the State Club Canada will work, was really fun and enjoyable.
Gabby, are there any questions we want to tackle?
Yeah, I mean, I think pretty much covered the housing questions that I am seeing in here. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Calla?
I just saw in the chat that someone asked about roommates being the same. And I don't know if this is going to change, but at least for our group, I chose to have the same roommate coming back. But you could also choose between the group if you want to change, if you became closer to somebody else. So yeah, I feel like that's right.
Yeah, I don't know. Generally what we see is most London students will choose to live with another London student when they return to campus in the spring, but it does not have to be your London roommate. It can be, that's totally fine if you both select each other, but it doesn't have to be your London roommate. But most London students choose to do that. You can also tell Res Life that you don't want to live with another London student, and then they'll place you with another first year student that has an opening in their room. All right. So talking a little bit about admissions and financial aid. So Gabby, do you want to talk about the admissions side of the program and selection?
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually do want to address a question that we got in the chat or the Q&A. Someone asked, you know, did you have to, when you were applying to Skidmore and say you didn't check off that you wanted to apply for both London and Saratoga, but now like the opportunity came and went, but now the London program sounds really interesting to you. You maybe want to be considered at this point, even though you didn't check it off when you were initially applying. So in that case, you would reach out to me and I would take another look at your application and see if you would be eligible to go to London for that first semester. Again, if this is the case, if you didn't initially check off London and Saratoga when you were first applying to Skidmore. So I would just take another look at it. And my email's on the screen, so please reach out about that if that is the case for you. But at this point, a question that I get asked a lot is how quickly does the program fill? How many students are currently enrolled? So at this point in time, as of today, we have 36 spots available for the London program. As of today, we currently have 25 students enrolled. So something that I recommend students do is just keep checking in with me the next couple weeks and kind of just see where we're at. So please just reach out if you kind of just want to see where we are at numbers wise. There's not really any way for us to be able to tell how quickly the program is going to fill. All I can really say, it is going to fill as we get closer to that universal May 1st deadline. And we also are having a few accepted student days. So they might fill after those as well. So something I really just recommend, just keep checking in with me. Reach out if you have any questions about the enrollment. Again, if you are kind of in the boat where you didn't initially apply to London, but now you want to be considered, again, reach out if that's the case for you, and just shoot me an email whenever you can. Thanks.
Yeah. And I will say that you're also welcome to call me and ask me questions about London, but I can't answer the question about how full the program is. So admissions really does handle all of the actual acceptances and offers and things like that. So just keep in mind, if you call the study abroad office, I will then tell you to call Gabby. So make note of her contact information. It's also on the website as well. Other thing just to keep in mind, that to participate in the program, you do have to be 18 by the time the program begins in London. So the program is structured where we do a 3-day orientation on campus, and then the students travel as a group to London. There's usually a group flight that students will book and take to London. So you have to be 18 by the time that flight lands in London. So if you have any questions about the age requirement, just let us know. The other part I always like to just mention, talking about the financial aid and the cost for the program. So going to London, you're going to be charged the same comprehensive fee that you would if you were on campus. The only difference would be that for all study abroad students, including London first year, students for housing are charged the campus apartment rate. So that is a different rate than if you're living in a residence hall on campus. So that could be a difference in cost from going to London versus coming to campus. And then, if you receive any type of financial aid, that can all be used towards your semester in London for the most part. The only thing that doesn't typically work or transfer over is the work study component, because that's just for campus. It's not for study abroad. You can't actually work in London based on immigration rules. So if your financial aid package does include work study, we always encourage you to talk to your financial aid advisor at Skidmore and just talk to them about how your aid package might be changed or adjusted if you're going to London, just so you have a clear picture of how everything's going to work. There will always be extra costs for studying off campus. So those would be things like your flight. So you do have to pay for your flight, any passport or visa costs. So if you don't have a passport, that's something that you should do right now. It should be valid for at least 6 months from the end date of the program. So if you have a passport, make sure you're checking that expiration date and making sure that it's valid, because it's still taking a long time to get a new passport. Other things just to expect, just your day-to-day expenses. So even though you will have kind of that partial meal plan and you'll have a stipend for some meals and you'll have the local transportation pass, you are going to be living in one of the most expensive cities in the world. So you do have to kind of keep in mind for cost that you should expect that it will be more expensive to live in London than it would be to live in Saratoga. All right. Any questions about cost or anything like that in the chat?
Let me see. There is a question I'm seeing. When do we know if we are admitted to the London program? So when you apply to Skidmore, if you did check off that you want to be considered for both London and Saratoga, in your acceptance letter, it should say in there, if we do want to offer you a place in the London program, you know, you have the option of going to London or staying in Saratoga that first semester, that first year. But again, if it's the case where you didn't initially apply for London, what you would do, again, you would get in contact with me. I'll take another look at your application and see if you would be eligible. And I'll get back to you very, very soon, if not the same day. So again, if that's the case, just reach out to me.
Great. All right. So we already touched a little bit on returning to campus with the questions about the housing and then, you know, just getting involved on campus. But a couple of things just to keep in mind. The London first year experience, even though we say first year, you only do the fall semester in London. So you will come back and do the spring semester in Saratoga. So at Skidmore, we consider the first year experience your whole year, but you get to do it over 2 different campuses. One very important thing to note is that there's no winter break housing on campus for students that do the London program. So if you go to London, the program starts a little bit earlier than campus and ends a little bit earlier than campus. So the calendar is slightly different, which means that you have a longer winter break until you come back to campus, usually the 3rd week or so of January. So this is one of those things we always like to just let students know this ahead of time. So you're thinking about it when you're done with London. You can come back to the US and go home. Some students will stay and travel for a little while. Other students will have other plans that they're doing, but you'd have to move out of program housing and you wouldn't be able to come and move into your campus housing until the actual date for returning students in January. If you do need winter break housing, then that might be a reason to think about coming to campus for your first year instead of going to London. Students that have a full year housing contract, sometimes they are able to stay on campus over break, but that's not for London first year students. And then kind of moving along to that, as far as the transition to campus, I mean, basically almost as soon as you leave to go to London, the campus is gearing up to help welcome you back a few months later in January. So there's a lot of work that goes behind the scenes. So not only with Res Life for your housing, like we talked about before, you can put in a request to live with another London roommate or another London student or somebody that was on campus for the fall semester. There's also, you'll be registering for your classes in the spring semester while you're in London. So that's really where you'll work with your Scribner faculty advisor, who not only is your professor, but is also your advisor at Skidmore until you declare a major. And they'll be a great resource as you kind of decide what classes you want to take in the spring. And then there'll also be a variety of events that happen both in January. When you come back, we'll do another like shorter orientation process for welcoming you back to campus. And then there'll be events that happen throughout the semester. We even have dedicated peer mentors that are usually former London first year students that are there to kind of help you and guide you through the process, plan different events, study breaks, things like that. So there's a lot of great resources there to kind of help you with that transition. But I always want to hear from the panel and kind of ask them about what was it like coming back to campus, any tips or advice, things that worked, things that didn't work, anything you wish you would have done differently. So anybody want to raise their hand and go first? Talking about coming back to campus after London. All right, Sadie, it's you.
Okay. I think I had a pretty like straightforward transition. There definitely were harder moments. But I think that like coming back with the group of people, definitely like you have this built-in support system and then you're like slowly expanding it. So I like I said earlier, was living with my roommate from before. So we like moved in together again, and like most of my friends were still like the friends I had made in London, and so like we're kind of exploring and spreading out together. And I definitely think having the peer mentors there like really helped with that, and like just having more general campus knowledge like learning how to like use the library resource system, or like how to like interact with professors, because you definitely have a different relationship. And then also just like we went sledding together. They like made us all hot chocolate. Like we went ice skating, like helping us explore the town of Saratoga more. Definitely like helped with the transition.
Diva?
Yeah, I agree with what Sadie said, and I just want to like build on that. The support system that Skidmore puts in place is very much like adequate and great. Because when we came back, of course, we had the orientation for the Saratoga campus, but also for me specifically as an international student, I was meeting with like my international student advisor. I was meeting with my financial aid advisor and like my academic advisor. So those were really there to like really help me settle into campus, but also the two peer mentors, which were seniors at the time. They were also a great resource. They always came up with like fun plans for us to do. They also did like an open mic where they invited like the whole Skidmore community, so we were able to interact with other students as well. And then there were also like some people that I had already talked to before coming back here. So my tips is probably just like not only talk to the people that are going to London, but also talk to the people that are coming to the Saratoga campus. So when you come back, you kind of have that network to like just hang out with. And then what else? And then also for classes, it was definitely more challenging, the classes here in Skidmore, because at the time I was taking more credits, but also like I was trying to get into like the more serious, like more in like my majors. But the professors were really great resource. They have like open office hours, and like they're even available outside of office hours to meet, and they're just like really understanding and great.
Paula?
For me, while I was in London applying for classes coming back, I made it a really big deal to choose classes that were some of the biggest that Skidmore offers for freshmen. And a lot of people in London chose to stay with people that they were close to in London. And I felt like having classes that were a little bit separated from that would help me put myself out there more. And with that, I sat next to people who I didn't necessarily know. And then from there, it kind of is a natural flow of just like walking to the dining hall and sitting with a new group of people. And that really helped me coming back to campus.
Zach?
Yeah, I have to agree with Kala on that one. So I only have one class with some of the people from London, which we didn't even know we were in the same class. It was the EN 105 class, but that definitely helped, having just one class, knowing that you were gonna have some of your friends from London there. It's like the highlight of my week, definitely having somebody that I know there. But it's also good to be with other it's also good to meet other people, and it's good to put yourself out there. Like I joined the orchestras, Skidmore Ensemble Orchestra, and that's just a really good thing to be with. Like you get to play with your professors in that, and you get to meet other like local town professionals. You get to make connections and be with your other students and faculty, which is really good and helped me.
Yeah, so everyone has different strategies for kind of making that transition back to campus. In some ways, students that go to London have more experience kind of going through that process of being somewhere new and kind of getting up to speed quickly. But I think you've heard from some of the different students about ways that worked for them. So we always recommend getting involved with different activities, whether it's through an academic department or a club or thing. There's like so many things you can do on campus. So doing that early, signing up, committing to do that, that's a great way to meet people. Some of our London students will get involved with leadership positions on campus. So whether that's, volunteering to work with the Student Governments Association, or maybe looking into being an RA or a peer health educator on campus, there's a lot of great opportunities there. Zach, did you want to add something?
Yes, I saw a comment that asked to stay in Europe the second semester before it starts. I just wanted to say that I decided to stay in Europe for an extra month. I got an Airbnb that was I asked around, and you can get them like for a deal. Just say you're a student that lived that studied, and sometimes they'll give you deals. But I stayed an extra month and I got to travel and explore the city, and I think it was cool and worth it if you're able to do it.
The program is designed that it is just one semester in London and then you come back to campus. So it's typically not possible to then do a second semester somewhere else in Europe unless you took a leave of absence from Skidmore. And then the credit wouldn't come back to your Skidmore degree. So I would say overwhelmingly, like, students should come back to campus in the spring. Diva?
Yeah, I also did the same thing as Zach. I stayed in Europe for the whole month until coming back. And I would really encourage that. I had some friends that even like, you don't even have to stay for the whole month, but like stay for like a few weeks, explore. Just know that you're gonna be on your own though, because the program, like after the program ends, you're just gonna have to figure things out by yourself. But it's fun. You should do it.
Right. Okay, so basically just kind of thinking again, here's our contact information for myself and for Gabby. Next step, if you haven't confirmed with admissions, whether you want to come to campus or go to London, that could be like get one of the remaining spots that we have. Like I said, if you don't have a passport or you need to renew it, now's the time to do that. If you do it now, you don't have to expedite that process. If you wait later, you'll have to pay more to get it done in a short time frame. For anyone that has been admitted to Skidmore and confirmed with admissions, make sure you go ahead and do all the things that they're telling you to do to kind of get into our systems. We'll definitely create your Skidmore email. And then one of the things I always encourage students to do early is to schedule that appointment for a physical exam for sometime in the summer. One of the required forms that you'll have is a health form where we'll ask you to have a physical exam if you haven't had one recently. And sometimes it takes a while to get in for a physical with your doctor. So get that on the calendar sooner rather than later. Diva, did you want to add something?
Oh yeah, for like international students, make sure that you have all the vaccines required, because that was like the thing that was challenging for me. So just make sure you get everything, like not just COVID, but like for example, New York State requires like a meningitis vaccine, so just try to get that out of the way.
Yeah, so London students have to do everything for London and all of the required forms and things for campus. So it is a lot of paperwork and it's a lot of things to kind of navigate, but that's also one of the things that I help students with to try to keep them on track as far as like, if you need help kind of filling out any of the paperwork and all navigating all the different portals that you'll have to be in, because there's quite a few of them. Gabby, any questions in the chat we want to go over?
Yeah, I know there's a couple questions just about the student visas and just kind of how does that work?
Okay. So student visas, it'll depend on what kind of passport you have. So if you're a US citizen, you don't need to apply for a visa before you go to London. When you enter London, technically you can be there as a tourist for up to 6 months, but because you're there to study, you'll get a sponsor letter from our program that'll allow you to kind of enter as a standard visitor, but there's nothing that you have to do in advance besides just carry that documentation with you through customs. So pretty easy. There's also a number of countries that enter the same way as well. So if you have a question about whether or not you need a visa, I would say just email me and I'll be able to kind of talk with you specifically about what you would need to do or not do. You know, if you, certain countries, you will have to apply for a visa in advance. It's not a student visa, it's a standard visitor visa, which is a little bit less intense than the process for a student visa. But again, I will be your advisor on UK visas. I'm not an expert, but I do know a lot about that process and have been helping students each year as they navigate that. Diva, do you want to add anything about the visa process? Any tips that I know you.
Sure. Definitely check if your country needs a visa to enter, because you'll be surprised, because I come from a really small country, but I didn't need a visa to go to London. However, somebody also asked about applying to American visa in London. That was what I did, because when I was going to the London program, I couldn't really apply before because there's like a 3-month expiration limit. So you have to apply at least less than 3 months before the date you have to enter America. So I had to apply my visa in London, and it was a very easy process. Just make sure though that you booked the interview appointment very, very early on. Like I would even say like right now, because they do fill up because London is a big city. Just make sure you like secure an interview appointment, and then you'll be good. It should be easy. But if your country doesn't have the 3-month expiration, I would say do it before so you don't have to worry about it during your program.
Yeah, if you do need to apply for both a US visa and a UK visa, we always encourage you to try to get your US visa first, just in case for some reason you don't get the UK visa, then you can always come to campus. So I would say, every country is a little bit different. So anyone that needs a visa would be working with me, as well as with Chloe and Suban, the international student advisors at Skidmore. So just let us know. You can send me an email offline and we can go over any of those details. Any other questions?
Yeah, there are quite a few in here. Can parents travel with students in August?
They can travel to campus. We actually encourage families to come with their student to campus. That 3-day orientation that we have on campus, the first day, that Monday, there'll actually be activities for parents and families. So that's totally fine if they come to do that. Just keep in mind that we only provide housing for students on campus. Parents and families would be expected to find their own housing. And we always encourage you to book that early because August in Saratoga is very busy and very expensive because of the racetrack. It's a pretty high tourist season in town. So just kind of keep that in mind. We do not encourage students to travel to London with their student because there's a lot of group activities happening in that beginning of the semester. And those are usually only open to students. And it's a very intense orientation process once you get there. So there's not a lot of free time in the first few days or few weeks.
See, one I can answer really quick. Can students on the wait list still get a position at London? So first, I'll just say we are still unsure if we are going to be going to our wait list at this point. We'll know after the May 1st deadline if we will have to pull from our wait list. So that would be around like May 2nd or 3rd. So, we encourage you to deposit elsewhere just to secure your spot at a different university first. You first have to be admitted to Skidmore to then be considered for the London First Year Experience program. Okay. Let's see. Want to take 1 or 2 more questions, Kendra? Yeah. Let's see. Is there any introduction to the public transportation system in London?
Yes. So you'll get like an orientation in London and they'll go over some of those details. They'll talk with you about how the transportation pass works. I would say overall, it's a pretty easy system to navigate. It's very well organized. Wasn't too hard at all. Callie, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that was my not biggest fear, but my biggest worry going into London was the public transportation. Because for me, I just thought of it as a New York City almost, but honestly, everyone uses public transportation in Europe. So it's really straightforward. So it shouldn't be any worries whatsoever.
Yeah, and you'll get lots of practice, and especially those first few days, you'll do a lot of stuff with the program assistant because you will have to use public transportation to get from the housing to the program center. It's too far to walk unless you have a few hours to do that. So you will be using public transportation.
Okay, great. So I'm going to go to one more question. For any of the questions that we weren't able to answer in this session, please reach out to myself and Kendra, and we'll be more than happy to answer any other questions that you have. But let's see, this one kind of goes back to housing. Do all the students go into the same building for the residence hall when they return to campus in Saratoga Springs? Like are they all in the same building?
No, they'll be spread out throughout the residence halls. So they will be living in a residence hall, not one of the apartments on campus. But basically, London students are kind of slotted in where they have space in those buildings. So they're usually throughout campus. Okay. So like Gabby said, if you put in a question but it didn't get answered, please feel free to send those in by email. We're happy to connect you with students that have already studied in London, like our panelists, but there's also a whole host of other students that we can connect you with, or different departments on campus, depending on what types of questions you have. But thank you everyone for coming. It's great to kind of, again, see the interest. Thank you for the panelists. I really enjoyed hearing about your experience. It's great to kind of see you guys all again. I worked with you so much before you went, and then, you know, to now hear you on the other side of it. So thank you again. And thanks to Gabby and everyone in communications for helping to organize all of this. All right. Good night, everyone.
Good night. See you.
Thank you.
Thank you.